You're watching Shaw Arts and Entertainment. I am Curtis Anderson. I'm here at the C95 studios alongside Mr. Derek Watson. Now, of course, Derek Watson going to be heard all afternoon, every afternoon here on C95, as well as hosting the Joe Blow radio show. You're a busy man, Mr. Watson. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Well, that was an awkward mic movement. Let's try this. Let's sit up a bit.
Okay. All right, we set?
Okay, you had me on Joe Blow not too long ago.
Yeah.
It was one of the more exciting days. I'm not going to lie to you. I was very excited when you chose me to come on. How did I do?
You know what, man? Honestly, and I'm not doing this just because we're on Shaw TV, is that you actually had one of the best shows we've done so far. Right here. Right here.
Thank you. Talk a little bit about the origins of Joe Blow. How did that amazing concept get started? Now, in case anybody out there hasn't heard the Joe Blow radio show, you take applications from anybody in Saskatoon.
Anybody, yeah.
They list some of their favorite songs. You choose this person, they come in, they spend an hour with you, you play their songs, you talk about why they like these songs and why they're important to them. Yeah. How has it taken this long to figure out an amazing program like that?
I'm not really too sure why it took so long, but it was kind of interesting. Our producer, his name is T-Bone, him and I were actually sitting having a wobbly pop on a Friday afternoon, and he's the one who came up with this idea, and he said, you know, what about just having the listeners come in and they play their music? And I thought, this is brilliant, and we need to do it. So him and I actually put together a pilot show with him as the host, and I was the guest, and we sent it up to the higher-ups, and they liked it. In just a matter of a few weeks, they were like, yeah, get it on the air. So, and I think we're now at about around that 30 range of shows that we've done, and we're probably booked until like October of 2008, I think. Yeah, so.
Well, it seems like something that would just be so fun. Like, I mean, there's probably not a person out there in Saskatoon that wouldn't want to be interviewed and talk about their music. What surprises have you seen doing this show so far?
Well, that's a good question. I haven't seen too many surprises. I guess what I really like about the show sometimes is people sort of catch you off guard because some people don't want to talk too much about themselves because they're just a little quieter and just don't really want to throw it out there on the radio. But what surprises me sometimes is, you know, for instance, the other day a 19-year-old girl came on the air, excuse me, and said that she was playing this particular song because she was supposed to be getting married on August 4th. And turns out that her fiance called her up one night and said, I can't do it, and kind of gave all the background details on how that happened. So when you get that, that makes for compelling radio.
Now, when I was on, the very last song I played some Air Supply, and it got some chuckles, and I asked you this. I said, do you ever get frustrated with people's taste in music? You know, you gave me 1 hour on C95, play whatever you want, and I played Making Love out of nothing at all. Like, at some point you had to just sit back and go, I can't believe he's doing this to me.
You surprised me with that one. And to finish off the show with that, yeah, you threw me for a bit of a loop. But no, you know what? Not really. Because there's both sides to it. Yeah, sure, the odd song comes up and you're like, okay, well, that's not a tune that I would listen to, but you've got a reason for bringing it on the show. But on the other hand, I mean, sometimes people bring stuff in that you've never heard of before, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, that's a smoking tune. I got to get a hold of that song. So
now, like, as you mentioned, this thing's going off like gangbusters. If people out there, you're already booking for October, I guess. If people out there want to beat the curve, I mean, what should they do for their application to make themselves stand out a little bit at this point?
That's a good question. And I think probably the biggest thing is to have sort of true, honest, heartfelt stories as to why you chose a particular song, because we want to bring that out in the show. It makes for a much better radio show when you're talking about, you know, a situation that happened in your life when you were younger or whatever it may be, so you decided to choose that song, because then between myself and that person, we can kind of banter back and forth and talk about that situation. So, yeah, you know what? Have some fun with your applications. Be wild and wacky and zany. And, you know, we could be booked up till October 2008, but I don't want anybody to not put in an application because we might be picking you first, you know. So,
has the show ever completely derailed? You mentioned the young lady who talked about how her fiance called it off. Has anybody told a really inappropriate story that you had to edit out or anything like that?
You know what? No, I don't think at this point in time. No, there hasn't been anybody. I've seen a few tears on the show, but nothing's totally gone off. I thought with you it was going to that day because you were pretty high strung.
I was very sick, and I'm not gonna lie. I pulled up in the parking lot. I shotgunned a coffee and 2 Red Bulls, and I was like, let's do this. I'm ready to make some radio. Talk about yourself to finish this up. I pitched that at the very end too. I said, I did not know you were the very first, I guess, official guest of the Joe Blow. If Derek Watson, if you could interview yourself in the Joe Blow, top 5 songs you would play and why?
Ooh,
real quick.
Top 5. Top 3? Can we do top 3 instead?
We can do top 3.
Yeah, top 3 would be better.
Talk about your top 3.
Top 3, I would probably go with Blue Cantrell, Hit 'Em Up. It's kind of a sort of poppy, sort of swing type of song that's got sort of some groovy beats. The only reason why I chose that is because I hadn't heard it before. I lived in Dubai in the Middle East at one point in time and worked top 40 radio there, and that's where I heard that song. So whenever I think of that song, I think of living in Dubai. Huge Pearl Jam fan, went through the whole grunge scene, you know, the Nirvanas, the Stone Temple Pilots, Alice in Chains, all those bands. So Pearl Jam is my favorite band of all time. And actually, number 2 would be Pearl Jam's Eddie Vedder with Pete Townsend of The Who doing an acoustic version of The Who's Behind Blue Eyes. Blows me away. And then number 1 would be The Counting Crows, Mr. Jones. I have an acoustic version of that as well. And the only reason why that one comes up is because I like the tune. And on top of that, I was in a car accident one time. And the car went flipping over and over and over. And as I was laying upside down and the car finally came to a stop, I just all of a sudden heard, Mr. Jones. So it just totally brings back the memory of being in that situation. So, and that's what the show's about.
3 fantastic stories. All of viewers that are applying can use that right there as a template
Yep, there you go.
of their application. Really quick, how do people apply?
Just go to C95.com. There's an icon there on the website, and fill out the application form, and we'll take a look at it once it's in. So once again, have some fun with your application form. Tell us some stories. Have some fun.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And I got to honestly admit, it was one of the funnest moments of my life. It was so fun. I mean, I interview people all the time. To have the tables turned and be interviewed, I mean, that's something you kind of fantasize about every once in a while. And
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was an awesome show, and I appreciate the fact that both you and Jackie came on, and thanks for taking the time to come in and chat with me today. So, right on.